Tonight, is the Democratic Party at a pivot point? The Supreme Court decision allowing gerrymandering could hurt them come Election Day, and new doubts after this week's debates. Analysis from former DNC Chair Ed Rendell and from former Florida Congressman Patrick Murphy. Then, New York just passed a law allowing undocumented immigrants to get driver's licenses. Supporters say it'll increase public safety. Tonight, we get the other side of the issue from a Republican who voted no. And later, the measles outbreak continues across America, particularly in our region. That is, lies, fear, and misinformation continue to keep parents from vaccinating their kids. We offer tonight facts and science from a pediatrician just back from a CDC conference on the very subject. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. We are still 16 months away from the 2020 presidential election, but today, in June 2019, the Democratic Party may be, well, at a pivotal point, and it is not entirely of their own making. One part came courtesy of the Supreme Court yesterday in their decision allowing politically gerrymandered districts. Now that leads to districts that look like this. And in more states than not, it will help Republicans elect more Republicans to state houses and also to Washington. Then, of course, there's a question of everyone's minds during this week's Democratic debate. Is the party moving too far to the left to beat Trump come next November, especially after moments like this one? All 10 Democrats on the stage last night backing health care for undocumented immigrants. Popular among Democrats, less so among swing voters than Democrats will need come Election Day. And is Joe Biden, widely thought to be the best positioned Democrat to beat Trump, in line with the current party enough to actually end up as its nominee? Well, for answers, we turn to Ed Rendell. Rendell was the head of the Democratic National Committee from 1999 to 2001. He's also former governor of Pennsylvania, and he served as both mayor and DA of Philadelphia. Governor, thank you. I appreciate the time as always.
My pleasure.
Well, first, let's start with the Supreme Court yesterday. Talk about practically wearing both the hat of the DNC and also as a former governor, the impact that in effect codifying into law the idea that gerrymandering is okay. Won't it in effect do partisanship and put it on steroids?
Yeah, there's no question about that. And in states that are controlled by Democrats in the legislature, you'll see the Democrats do it. In states that are controlled by Republicans, which are the majority of states, you'll see Republicans do it. And it's a terrible decision. A couple of years ago, the court said, look, we have been reluctant to get involved in something that's in the realm of partisan politics, but there has to be a line where partisanship goes too far. They declined to define that line 3 years ago. But with the decision today in the North Carolina case, they're actually saying that there is no line. Because remember, the North Carolina legislator who sponsored the redistricting bill, he said the only reason we have mapped it so that there are 10 Republican seats and 3 Democratic seats is we couldn't figure out a way to map it so there would be 11 Republican seats. He was very honest about the fact that this was purely done for political reasons. That has to violate the Constitution. But the Supreme Court in a 5-4 decision said it didn't. Terrible decision. It can only be changed by referendum, and referendum setting up citizen redistricting commissions. Now, they've passed in every state that's had them. So that's the idea. Get it on the ballot for a referendum and go to some form of citizen redistricting.
Speaking of integrity when it comes to elections, you had the President of the United States in an open mic joking with Putin about not interfering with the elections going forward, having a good laugh at it. I know nothing shocks anymore, but my God, right? I mean, is there any line?
No, there doesn't appear to be. And the president is either totally uncaring about what the American people feel, or he's an idiot. I can't figure out which, because Russia is not our friend, and Americans know that, whether they're Republican, Democrat, Tea Party, Progressive, they know that. And here he is laughing about something that is clearly the case. The intelligence community said it. The Mueller investigation said it. Even Republicans in the Senate and House have recognized the Russians tried to destroy our election. Now, to joke about that, as a citizen, forget a Democrat, as a citizen, that pisses me off. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. I think it's disgraceful for our president to go there and laugh about it with a guy who's a killer, who's a dictator, who has the best interests of the United States. Not for 1 second does he think they're the best interests of the United States.
You watched the debates in Florida the last 2 nights. First off, Joe Biden didn't have a good night. And you've known this man for a long time. He always talks about, Joe from Scranton. Is it that there isn't a good answer for today's Democratic Party for what Biden was 30, 40 years ago? Or did he just not answer the question the right way? Does he have a good answer for at least these primary questions he's going to get about then and now?
Yeah, first of all, I tell you that I think Joe Biden was asked 8 questions, and I think he gave good answers for 5 or 6 and some terrific answers. His answer on guns was absolutely terrific, laying out all that he's done and future plans like passing laws for smart guns. So I think, on balance, he did okay. Did he blow that question? Yeah, there's no question he blew that question. And it makes you wonder about the level of debate preparation that they did. And there is a better answer. If you're asked about something you did in the 70s, you should turn and say, look, I'm not going to go and relitigate every decision I made in a 45-year career. I'm going to talk about the things that I want to do right now to address the challenges facing America. Simple as that. If you go back and look at what I said, you can say it was a mistake, you can say it wasn't a mistake, but I'm not going to relitigate that. People aren't interested in 45 years ago. They're interested in what we're going to do for them now. And that's what he should do to all of these questions. I mean, take Kamala Harris, who did a good job last night. Does she want people going back to all of her records as a DA or as an Attorney General? I guarantee you can find some cases where her office made questionable decisions. I was a DA for 8 years, and you can find that in my 8 years as DA. I mean, if we're going to go and pick apart everything everybody's done and put it under the microscope, we're in trouble as a party. That's number one. And number two, talk about it as the party gone too far to the left. I thought Kamala Harris made a big mistake last night. It's been sort of overlooked by the media, and that is when the question was asked, who here would be willing to impose Medicare for all and eliminate private insurance? Bernie Sanders raised his hand and Kamala Harris raised her hand. We don't want to eliminate private insurance. We want Medicare for all, but as Senator Bennett said, Medicare for all who want it. If there are 160 million Americans who have private insurance, my guess is 100 million of them are satisfied. They don't want to go into a government program. If we insist that they're forced into a government program, they're not going to vote for us. Simple as that.
You know, this question, I guess, is for Pennsylvania, given the purple nature of the state, but also I think for a lot of the Democrats who are not as vocal, I think, as the minority portion of the party. Their primary concern is they want to beat Trump next November. And if you just took a snapshot for the last 2 nights on the platform about, free insurance, health insurance for every immigrant in the country, basically for some to have no border protection at all, to throw Obamacare out the window, as you just referenced, and we can go up and down the line. They're going down a dangerous path, I think, and I know you got to first win the primary to get to general election, but aren't they defining themselves out of the swing voters' sweet spot? And I guess you can answer that question a perfect way. To win Pennsylvania, could anybody from the last 2 nights with the platforms they're taking really take back and make it a blue state?
Well, you made 2 very good points. The first is that we are swinging far too much. Well, the first point you made, which was excellent, is that that's not the far left progressive viewpoint is not the Democratic Party's viewpoint. When we talk about the Democratic Party, I'm talking about registered Democratic voters. The vast majority of them, 70% plus, are not progressive socialists or anywhere close to it. They're mostly moderate, left of center Democrats. That's number one, and you've identified that correctly. They're not the Washington crowd. They're not inside the Beltway. They're not the media. They're Democrats who want a moderate approach to government, who want to see government work, who want to get rid of Donald Trump, but they're not leaning towards socialism. However, we've opened ourselves up for claims like that. we're going to have to raise taxes. It's going to be a socialist community. Interestingly, before I went on a radio show this morning, there was a commercial for a Republican candidate running for county controller in Montgomery County, one of our suburban counties. And he said, we've got to elect Republicans to take back the courthouse and not let the socialist agenda of the Democrats take hold. That's all you're going to hear between now and next November. Socialist Democrats, socialist Democrats. Now, to answer your question, there were a couple of candidates, 3 or 4 in the debates, that I think made it clear that they're not for an agenda that would cost a lot of money. They're not for an agenda that takes us through socialism. And that's Senator Bennett. I thought he did a very nice job last night. Of course, Joe Biden. I thought his record is pretty clear on those issues. And from the night before, Amy Klobuchar. I think Amy Klobuchar definitely comes across as a significant moderate. And I think Governor Hickenlooper from last night. So there are 4 Democrats right there who have something to offer other than this shift to the far left. I thought Kamala Harris was sort of well-positioned, she and Cory Booker, with 1 foot in the progressive camp and 1 foot in the moderate left of center camp. But after her answer on health care, she's got a lot of digging out to do.
Well, we got a long time here, but it's certainly been an interesting past couple of days. Governor, I really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Richard.
And we're going to take a quick break, but on the other side of it, we will head down to Florida, the scene of the debates the last 2 nights, and we'll be speaking with a former congressman and supporter of Joe Biden to tell us just how much damage his guy actually went through yesterday and if he can rebound. Stay with us. We'll be right back.